Okay, so I'm going to do this little session here to take a look at the, take a look at the Unity Animator. And at the same time, I am trying to figure out, did I leave the, where is it? Toolbars, docs, chat. There we go. All right, so since we're on Twitch, I'm going to leave chat open just in case anybody decides to join. All right, so in this game here, I'm using everything is still in my sprites project here, so I'm going to continue working with the sprites project, and I'm going to use some assets that I have downloaded before. Haven't shown these in class. There are the Ensimis's Sunnyland Woodlands asset pack. I'm going to download that and put it on this machine. I just have never used it on this particular machine before. So let's go ahead and we will import a bunch of things in here. We will not import the scenes. We will, let's see, not import the scenes, but we will import the environment and the props. Got some branch stuff in there going on. And there's some sprites, lots of sprites. Enemies, gator, grasshopper, jumping grasshopper, acorns, enemies, and of course the player. And the player has jump, run, idle, hurt, and crouch. And we will be looking at these specifically. Very exciting stuff. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and import these into the game. This is a free asset pack. You can go ahead and grab this one, or you could grab another one if you like. And let's see, let's look in here. You'll see now we have Sunnyland Woods. What I like to do is put third-party assets into my third-party directory here. So I put them into woods there. And let's see, let's go back to the game view. And this is not the scene I want to work in. I'm going to work in a new scene. So let's create a scene. Let's make a scene. All right. So this scene, create scene. Where is it? Create scene. And we will call this woodland. All right, so we have the woodland scene now. All right. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to create a player. So I will create an empty object, and I'm going to call that empty object. Oops, it's a little too wide for my screen here. No meetings. I'll go ahead and do that. And we will call this the player. Or actually, let's call it the squirrel. Okay. And the squirrel will be on the default layer. That's fine. And we will tag it as hero, because why not? Okay, so there's the hero. Now, let's go into, not Sunnyland Wood, oh, it is Sunnyland Woods. And we'll go into sprites, and we'll go into player. And let's look at first idle. Okay, now idle is a set of frames here. So let's see. If we were to try to grab all of them and drag them into our scene here, you'll see that it is asked, okay, maybe you want to make an animation out of that. So it's a new animation. Fair enough. Assets, animations, and we will call this squirrel run. Okay, or squirrel idle. Squirrel idle. All right. Now, where is our idle squirrel? He's there. He's really, really small. And he you know what? I'm going to delete that other squirrel. I'm going to delete that one and make this one squirrel. And go ahead, tag him hero, since that already has the sprite render on it and the animator on it, and so on. Now these also they came in at 100 pixels per as the unit, which is awfully small. So let's do this. Let's first off, let's close all these so that we can make some kind of wholesale changes here. So let's grab all of these, and now we can say, all right, they should actually be 16 pixels per unit. Apply. Okay, much bigger in that view. And now we can see him here. We're not really seeing him in the scene, though. So where's the camera? All right, main camera. Oh, well, he's nowhere near the main camera. So where did he go? Squirrel. Ah, change that to 0. 0. All right, so now he's in the camera. That's a good idea. And you'll notice he's doing his little idle dance here. Why is that? Why is he doing an idle dance already? Because since we dragged in a bunch of sprites, and it automatically created this animator for us here. And if I open the animator window, animation window, you'll see that sure enough, we have, let's do this, let's put that palette there, animation. It has gone ahead and created an animation for us, 12 samples, and let's drop this down and show sample rate. Did it make it 12? Yeah, okay. So it's 12 frames per second. Kind of did that nice default, and there he is. So there's our first Squirrel Idle that has created an animation for us there. Now, if we hadn't, we could have created an animator for that object specifically, but we just went ahead and did that. So now, what it also did at the same time, if I go and I look in the animations folder, you'll see that we have Squirrel Idle, which is the animation, but we also have this, we should have an animator for that. So Squirrel Idle, is that player idle 1 there? Yeah, so player, did I name, let's see, I don't know how it decided to name that player idle 1. That's interesting. Squirrel Idle, go back to the scene here. Scene, and yeah, sure enough. Okay, player idle 1. So that's our default. You can see this orange state here. If I right click, it says I could say set as layer default state, which is already the case anyway. But there he is. He's doing his Squirrel Idle thing. So when I play the scene, that animation automatically plays. Now, what if I wanted more animations? I don't want to just have that one particular animation state. So let's bring in some of his other animations. So we go to the animation window here. No animatable object selected. Let's go ahead and select the squirrel, and we'll see now that we have an animation, dope sheet here. We're seeing the frames within the dope sheet. And I'm going to create a new clip. Create new clip. And this new animation, we had Squirrel Idle. Now let's make Squirrel Run. Okay, so we have Squirrel Run. It has no frames in it, but it's if we edit, we can see that nothing's happening there. We will go to third-party assets, and we will look for Run. Here are our Squirrel Run images. So bring them in here, drag them in, and adjust the frame rate. I want that frame rate to be 12, and that's what I set over here, where I can show frames, show sample rate, set sample rate. So I set it to 12. Now if I see he is running there. He's very, very small again. Why is that? Well, let's go over here, select these, and I have to remember to change that back to 16. Whoops, 16. That is my pixels per unit. Okay, so now that's much better. And if I play, he's just doing his little jig there because he's idle. If I wanted to change that to make the default animation for him the run, I would come in here, open up the Animator. The Animator is the thing that really controls the animation, and we will set layer as default squirrel run. So now, if I play, you'll see after it does a little thinking, it has now animated the squirrel to run, because that is the default state here in the animation state machine. Okay. So how do I control which one of these it is using? Well, before I go that far, let's go ahead and do this. We will come back, we will select squirrel, and let's create a few more. So we have hurt, idle, jump, and run. So, oh, and crouch. Okay, idle we did, jump we have not. So let's say create new clip, and we will call this squirrel jump. And oops, did not mean for that to be there. I will move that. It's supposed to be in the animations directory. That's okay. And I will put these 4 in here. I've forgotten to change those. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and select those again. Set those to 16. Apply. Set the frame rate. I'm kind of doing things in an odd order here. I apologize for that. But now we can preview that. And here's his jump. So wonderful, kind of crazy little jumping animation here. All right. So this is the player. Now let's do something with the player. Let's give the player a rigid body, because we want to do some physics. Rigid body 2D, and add a component. We will add a capsule collider 2D as well. So if we wanted to see this now, we can go to scene, and let's see. His capsule collider 2D is kind of ridiculously large. Let's kind of shrink that down like that. Okay. And his rigid body 2D, for now, we're also going to freeze the rotation, so no matter what happens, he will not rotate. Now if I press play, it's probably just going to fall down. No? He is not falling down. Let's see. Let's check the project settings. Sorry. Project settings, physics, that's negative. So I want this negative 9.81, which is down by default. And I can modify that code later, but for now, let's just make that. So if I play, he falls. Okay. Let's give him something to fall down on. So we will go into our scene, and let's see, we had environment, props sliced, sprites, where's the other sprites? Miscellaneous, acorn, enemies. I don't have too much in the way of scenery here, do I? Alright, let's go ahead and grab the branch, which... Alright, I'll grab the branch. We'll just put that here. And for now, we'll just make it like that. And we will add a component, which will be a box collider 2D, just so that if he falls, oops, he will fall past the branch. Box collider 2D. Let's see, edit the collider. That's okay. He's good. Size, branch. What did I do wrong? Scaled it up. Z is 0. Oh, I bet I know why. I have to make this ground, because what I set up so that default things on the default layer cannot collide with the default layer. So the default layer will be able to collide with the ground layer. So, boom. Okay, he falls down. It lands on it, sort of. We'll get fancier with the box collider a little bit later, but for now, let's say, the box collider is something like there, and so he can boop, land on it. Now, let's do this. What should happen by default is that he should be idle by default. So we'll go squirrel, and we'll open up his Animator, and we will make the squirrel idle the default state. Now I press play. Boom, he's default, doing that. And let's make it respond, so if I go left or right, it's going to make him move left or right. So we need to, let's see, we're going to add something to the scroll. We're going to add a script, and this is going to be the beginnings of a squirrel controller. Okay, so we're creating our squirrel controller. And the squirrel controller, for starters, is the simple way. We're going to just try to find a get input, input dot get axis. And the one we're interested in for now is left and right, or horizontal. Okay. Now that's going to be a floating point number. So what I want to have this do, I'm going to just say, okay, transform dot get component rigid body hello, why not? Transform get component why am I not be able to get that? There we go. That's weird. Rigid body 2D dot velocity equals, and for now I'm going to do this because velocity wants to see a vector 2. So vector 2, my velocity equals, do this 0, 0. Well, I know I can do this. I'm just pressing my luck and trying to find another way to do it. So my velocity is equal to that, or what really is going to happen is the horizontal, the x, is going to be that. Okay? So let's, oops, my velocity. Okay. So now it's going to set the velocity of the rigid body 2D according to the horizontal axis, the horizontal joystick. And that's going to be my keyboard, my WASD keys. So it's going to fall down, and you'll see you can kind of move left and right. And it's trying to set the downward velocity according to, it's trying to set it to 0, so it's always slowing it down, which is not something I really wanted to do. So I'm going to say this should be, all right, so we're going to, let's make this line of code a little bit more readable. And we want to do that. Okay, dot y. All right, so what I just did now is I'm saying, okay, this new velocity that I want to set it to is going to be setting the horizontal, the xy velocity, the x left and right velocity according to the horizontal axis, the joystick, and it's going to leave the y being whatever it was. So if it's falling, it's going to continue falling, and so on. We're just not going to modify it. Okay? So now, if I press play, falling is normal, and left and right is going to be according to the keys I'm pressing. I'm pressing A and D. W and S aren't doing anything. And let's see, let's speed them up just a little bit, and we'll say this times squirrel speed, squish speed. Squish speed, I like that, yeah. And we're going to have this be a serialized field, float, squish speed equals 3 for starters. Okay, so now he's going to be 3 times as fast. And there we go. All right, but he doesn't animate. His animation does not change. So how do I want that to change? I want to do something. I want my animator to change state based on its velocity. So let's set up a parameter in here. So I just have layers. I have a parameter with no parameters just yet. Let's add a parameter, and that parameter will be a float, and that will be x velocity. Okay. And I'm going to make a transition. I'm going to cause a transition to go from Squirrel Idle, make transition, to Squirrel Run. And the transition, I'll click on that transition and make a condition. So I'm going to say, okay, I want this condition to be if x velocity is greater than 0. Okay, that's one condition. I forget if this is an AND. So is I always forget that. Less than 0. So let's assume that x velocity is non-zero here. So somehow, and then we'll do this, we'll say make transition to here. And that one will be that x velocity is greater than 0.01. We'll do that. And less than 0.1. Well, it should be greater than negative. Okay. And the other one should be greater than 0.1 and less than negative 0.1. I think I got that right. Let's see. Let's see if that works. So I always forget. So inside of here in the update, what I'm also going to do now is I'm going to say, all right, I have to set that component's, that animator component's value. So I'm going to say transform dot get component animator boom, dot, and this is going to be set float, and the value is going to be the ID. So the ID is what was it? X velocity, and we're going to set that to my velocity dot x. Okay, so we're going to set x velocity to my velocity dot x, and let's see if that works. So immediately what happens, he's still idling, and nothing is happening here. So let's do this. Let's say maximize on play, but let's not do that. And now we'll play that. And let's watch the animation here. So x velocity is not changing. X velocity. Let's look in here, And let's look at this, and let's see. X velocity, set float string name float value, transform get components, squirrel controller, save. Why is that not changing? Set float name float value. Control mechanism animator of this particular, and so this is on the squirrel. That certainly should be changing. X velocity, my velocity X. That is there. That's obviously changing, so let's attach to Unity. Now, the other odd thing is we don't see this guy. Normally you'd see this active. So let's go ahead and press squirrel. All right, now we're seeing that. Oh, okay. No, it is changing. We just didn't have it selected. So, all right, that's a little bit odd. All right, so it is changing. You see it's going to 3, going to negative. All right, so it's not changing though. So, x velocity greater than 1 should be when we go from the squirrel idle. So I must have this backwards. There we go. Oh wait, let's see. It's going back and forth and back and forth. Let's fix this. Let's fix this. Okay, so squirrel run. So it should go from squirrel run to squirrel idle if x velocity. We got that backwards. All right, so now it's in squirrel run because that's 0. So this one has been satisfied. X velocity should be greater than, let's remove one of these for starters. So if x velocity is greater than 1, it should do that. All right, now going back, to get back here, we should say x velocity is less than 0.1. And we'll also grab that one and we'll take that away. Okay, well, it's not changing immediately because this transition, I also said it has exit time. So let's get rid of this has exit time. And this one has exit time. Okay, so now it immediately goes, see? Ding, ding, ding. Okay, so I'm using the D key, and it immediately goes to that, and if I stop, it goes idle again. Okay. So let's try to get that second condition in here. So, I always forget if this is an or an and. So, let's see. Less than negative 0.1. Let's try that. Okay. So this is an and condition, right? Okay. So, what I can do is we will say, let's remove these conditions first off. And all right, remove that one, remove that one. So the list is empty there, and we know that squirrel run we want Squirrel to stop running if that we can do and, right? We could say less than 0.1 greater than negative 0.1, okay? So that we know will stay there. And we want it to transition to Squirrel run if it's non-zero. So we can, I always forget how I did this. You know what? I'm going to cheat for a second. I'm going to go, I have another animation in here, and I'm just drawing a blank here. Scene, we will go into our RPG scene. That's what I get. Let's save that scene. And let's look at our hero here. Scene, where's our hero? All right, there's our hero. He has an animator. And we'll go into the hero controller and the hero idle. Let's look at the transition there. We said if it goes to idle, if it's greater than 0.1, okay, that's fine. Walk side, if X movement is true. All right, so I thought I had something that was fancier than that. Yeah. All right, I thought I had figured out a way to kind of do that, but I guess I have not. I can't remember now. Okay, so let's do this. We will say here, we can actually simplify this a little bit, and we'll just say that this is going to be the absolute value of that. And let's get rid of this there. So math f.absolute value, so it will be greater than, so we're going to walk if it's greater than 0. Okay. Go back here, go back to our other scene. And here, let's select our squirrel and our squirrel's animator. And we can say we want the squirrel to begin to run if the velocity is greater than, right, 0.01, and we want it to go to idle if, we'll change that to be pretty tight little condition here. So, all right. So that was the easier way to do that. Now he is moving left and right, which isn't quite right. Or he's not moving left and right. So what I want to have happen is I'm going to go to my script, and I will say in this script that transform dot get component sprite renderer dot flipx equals, and this is going to be my velocity is greater than, or let's say less than 0. So we have a condition. We're going to flip the sprite, its actual animation, its sprite here. Whoops. What happened there? Okay. So I'm using that flip value here. If we look in the sprite renderer, you'll see flipx is changing according to the velocity. So this is a little simple example of using the animator, setting some transitions, some transition conditions according to the velocity of our rigid body. So that in here, pardon me for taking so long to figure out or to remember that I couldn't. Yeah, it's kind of a tricky condition there. I could swear I figured out some way to do that in the past, but I'm just not recalling it right now. So we have it flip the sprite renderer component according to the velocity, whether it's negative or positive, so that we are facing the sprite left or right, and we are telling the animator component, the float, what the velocity is, or at least what the absolute value of that velocity is, so it knows that it is no longer idle. It is actually trying to run, which is fine because we only have one animation. We don't have a left or right animation, which is fine. So that's why we can just use the absolute value of the velocity there. Okay, hopefully that was just review. Take care. Have a great weekend.